wait for some others, or everyone is here, more or less? Okay, okay. So I'll just take 2 minutes, not much, because I am aware that the workbook is not being used. This is just to touch upon how many of you are aware of Bloom's taxonomy? Bloom's taxonomy? This pyramid, anyone is aware of Bloom's taxonomy? Right? Um, so, as we see in Bloom's taxonomy, we see that this entire and this is not just for Cambridge. This is an integral part of B.Ed, and also this is followed in all other curriculums as well. So the Cambridge structure is centered around Bloom's taxonomy a lot, which says that it supports the other curriculums as well, like Sir also mentioned over here, because it is taking into account all these levels. Now, when we see Bloom's taxonomy, remembering, understanding are considered low order skills: apply, analyze, evaluate, create. Now, the purpose is that in many curriculums, and sometimes even we make that mistake, we say until grade 3, we can't have application and analysis questions. One of the things that we would be addressing, I think, modeling question papers, and we would be looking at that predominantly as well. Sometimes we can say that the application based questions can only come in grade 4 or 5. The creating and evaluation questions can come only in grade 7th and 8th. Now, with Bloom's taxonomy, what happens, and the way Cambridge curriculum is structured, and this is the case with the other curriculums as well, they want the holistic development. So it doesn't matter which grade the learner is. This taxonomy is for all the activities given. So this is just, the learner book also has these activities. In the workbook, it's structured in a very simple way. Focus activities are for understanding and remembering. Practice activities are given for application and analysis. Challenge activities are given for evaluation and creating. So you will find a link in the learner book as well for these activities. We will look into it. But in the workbook, after each unit, you have a focus activity, you have a practice activity, and a challenge activity is given, keeping the Bloom's taxonomy in mind. Focus is understand, remember. Practice is apply and analyze. Challenge is create and evaluate. But in the learner book as well, this is scaffolded. Now, this is something that really comes up, and we face this a lot. This is Dylan William talking about this. Writing good questions, especially when we are dealing with language. We cannot be asking questions just for the sake of asking. Open-ended questions are definitely encouraged, but that does not mean that close-ended questions are not relevant. A mixture of open-ended questions and close-ended questions would be the perfect blend. But the language used in questioning is very important, because until or unless we are really conscious of the language used in questioning, we will not be able to get structured answer or response. Many times what's happening is we are asking the question just for the sake of it, not keeping the learning outcome in mind. Now, uh, regarding the question of modeling question papers, the learner book can be used significantly to model good questions. If we can use the learner book now to study the questions in the learner book, not the workbook, in the learner book, if you identify some of the words, and if you can refer to Bloom's taxonomy and write some good practice and challenge questions, that would be great. I can help you. If in the tables you don't have the learner book, you can use the extract. I can come around and help you find the parts. And if you can just write some additional questions, that would be really great. This will also help you to model the question papers, to understand how you can structure open-ended questions can be formed, and how we can use the changes and the evaluation as well. So, ma'am, you have a learner book. So, ma'am, if you can see, one of the things that in good questions, and if you can identify this, uh, in many ways is using the words like describe sometimes, like and in the questioning if you find the word describe being used, explain, enhance, these are some of the words that you can use, and you can see that these questions can be used in good scaffold and the higher questions from the learner. We should get and to write separately. Yes. Some focus and challenge, some practice and challenge, and it's not focus. Because the practice is to apply and analyze, and the challenge is to write one kind of practice question, one kind of challenge question. Right? So, like with the learner book, if you find like words like describe, these are like good words to kind of build up, and this will bring us back to the ABC classroom routine that we have done. So, we can just write one, challenge question and one practice question, and not the focus question. So, ma'am, if you can use the learner book to write one challenge question and one practice question. Yeah, you don't have the. So, in the extract also, as you can see, you can use the extract by strengthens. So, look at the questions as a focus question, right? So, you can analyze this and read the text and finish the sentences is a practice question because it's applying that knowledge, right? And again, when we have the project challenge, that would be the challenge question. When they are getting the projects are also given. So that can be a challenge question. Change the ending of the story. That can be a challenge question. So if you can use the learner book or the extracts to write one practice question and one challenge question, that would be great as a group. And share those questions with us. The reason I have come to this slide, as you can see in the learner book, I just want to have your attention here. This is a challenge question. In the writing section, you can see they have given read your version of the end of the story again. Is there anything you would like to change? If the answer is yes, then go to question A. If the answer is no, go to question B. Can you see how interactive the learner book is? How interactive the question itself is? It's giving the learners not one clear option. It's giving the learners the option that if you choose question A, then you can, if your answer is yes, you can go to A. If your answer is no, you can go to the next question. It has scaffolded the question. It's making it, this is also almost like a gaming part, right? But without any digital device, this activity can be used because it's again helping them to change. Another part that I want to point out, this is very good for the lower grade to lower secondary when the learners are little reluctant to write a full story. You can give them a story and tell them to write the ending of the story, rewrite the ending of the story. So, writing habits inculcated in this way can really encourage them. So, they might be hesitant to write a full story. So, if we see the question, they said, read the story again. Is there anything you would like to change? They are making them think. And if they feel that yes, they will go to the next option, no, they will go to the other option. So this is also a challenge question because you're making them think, you're making them create something new, but not necessarily from scratch. you're giving them some basis. So this can be used for the lower grades as well, when you're not asking them to write a full story. They might be hesitant. If they're hesitant to write, use activities like this, where they would get into the habit of writing and then go on to build those writing skills more. Right? So if we can have one. So we can have one challenge and one practice question. And even when you're doing the question paper, you can have a mix of these questions. So you can have one focus question, which is identify the adjectives, right? Then you can have application of the adjectives, which is not that different from the other curriculum, which they give as fill in the blanks as well. So in ICC, CBSE also sometimes they give fill in the blanks as well. That is basically your practice. And the challenge can be questions like this, or when you're making them think and just expanding on their thought process a little bit more. So those can be the challenge questions that we can look at. Yes, yes. Uh, I would also like to bring your attention to another activity, which can be a very good scaffolding for challenge question as well. This is from a learner book as well. So, in adventure stories, even when the learners sometimes are again hesitate to create a story on their own, you can see an activity like this scaffolded in the learner book. It's the dice activity. So they can be given a dice based on what they are rolling. You can see that for the setting, if they get like 2, then the setting has to be 2 weeks ago. For the setting and the place, if they roll a 4, then it has to be deep in the jungle, right? So they can be given prompts like this, and it can be really fun and interactive for them. So when you're teaching, you can definitely, my suggestion for you would not to skip activities like this, because this can really help the students to build on their writing skills, and it can initiate the writing skills in them. So this is a great activity that I find, which always I have seen my learners very engaged when they are doing. So my suggestion to you, when you're choosing the activities, to choose wisely. You can spend some time on activities like this for sure, which are interactive.
Sí.
And the activities we can, sound box, yes, recognizing the sounds.
Making them think, they are thinking which characters they can take in, which characters they can become. Then they are kind of situating themselves like what can we add to it. So that's always a challenge. And practice is not very different from what we have in school. Like fill in the blanks. With adjectives, like complete adjectives, prepositions, use connectors. Those can be practiced. Yes, yes. See, even when you're setting the question paper, you can use both practice questions, challenge question, some focus question. So you can keep all these things in mind. So, sir, actually, it answers a little bit of your question with the question, like modeling the questions for the question, just kind of use both practice questions, challenge questions. Practice questions are very like that can also be a modeling question. And challenge question is something that is also there. Like what
அதை கட் பண்ணி வச்சிருக்கேன். இல்லை மேம் குழுதா.
any questions?
சாரி.
Any group has any questions? So if you look at some of the activities given here as well, this follows at so many levels what we already did with active learning, the ABC model. Uh, look at the sentences and add the correct punctuation. It's activating and building up on the concepts as well. So some of the learner activities that's given in the book, if you can just scaffold the questions according to that, it would be great. So that's why we are having the entire process of the uh, practice question and the challenge questions. If any group is ready and good to go, then please let us know, or we can take 2 more minutes to scaffold it. Ready? Right, right. So we can see that some of the groups are already ready. So if we can start with those who are ready, and we can have the.
Good afternoon. The challenge question for the day. If the code given for father is 13152085 and 18, what would be the code given for mother? Yes, it's based on a secret code. And the next question, a practice question, would be frame a secret message using the words first, next, and then.
Any other group who is ready? Any other group who is ready? So it's interesting that this group used the codes. We will very soon come to how coding is important in language learning and development as well. So that's an interesting activity that we have up next as well. Any other group who is ready for their challenge and practice question? Yes.
What is the reply message you have for Caesar? Challenge question, practice question. Read the given content.
Think of art and architecture and give an idea of the historical background. For example, the Islamic Golden Age, the Ming Dynasty. This is challenge question. And the practice question would be, which occasions do you celebrate in your family?
The passage is given for the third standard students. Kindly punctuate the passage. Punctuation is given for the third standard students. The challenging question is kindly realize the character of the story and do the role play in the class.
Ready, ma'am? Yes, yes, you can just go ahead and read it out. Yes.
Challenge. Ma'am, in extract 7.5, we have a lesson called affair solution. So for that, we made a challenge question. That is, what would happen if a poor man is anomia patient, which means the patient which we cannot smell, right? Or the rich man is deaf. So just imagine and reconstruct the story.
Thank you.
For the grade 1 4.6, practice question is why do we l- less when we reach space? And challenge question is what will happen if you do not wear the space coat?
Ma'am, for KG 2.2 at home, practice question is look at the pictures, point and say the words you know about your home. Challenge question is just imagine and what do you see on your way to home?
From grade 7, unit 2, the first question, what are these three-dimensional shapes? Already the shapes are mentioned in the book, so we can easily analyze that. The second challenging question is, why are eggs in egg shaped?
Yes, here the level is 4. The theme park. I'm integrating with the subject. Like, create your own park with 18-meter length and 15-meter breadth. It's like a challenge question as we are integrating with Max. And then the application, whether the child is like to play with family or friend. Even it can show in the data handling too. Thank you.
Is it already given question? Question? No, we are creating new. Madam, for design and architecture for class 8, um, focus question could be which sea you would be witnessing if your airplane is landing at Mumbai airport. Practice question, American author Rita Mae Brown said, language is a roadmap to culture. Do you agree? Substantiate with your example. And the challenging would be imagine you have constructed a house because it is about design and architecture. Imagine you have constructed a house with plastic bottles. Examine the pros and cons living in that house. It is from design and architecture.
Ma'am, grade 2, unit 2, my family. Challenging question, what could you do on your birthday? And practice question is, do you know when is your parents' birthday?
Any other response? Any other response? Thank you for the cross-curricular link as well. And ma'am had any other questions?
Madam,
You had any other questions?
we are discussing.
Right. So thank you for the cross-curricular link as well. That's an important part that's embedded in the Cambridge resources as well. So if you see the teacher resource book, with the unit, there is always a cross-curricular link that how the teachers can use that information and the knowledge with other subjects. And the cross-curricular link is very strong. We would also look into that aspect as well. Global English has many opportunities for students to become interested in stories, and storytelling is an important part and section of Global English in itself. This is something that Cambridge follows diligently. Children must be encouraged to read books because they want to. Popular text can still be used to teach contemporary literature, making reading relevant to adolescents and to real life outside of the classroom experience. Now, this is something very important. Last month, I was having a session with my colleague Simon Lind. You can also find some of his videos on YouTube. One of the questions we got in the session was, how do we make the learners interested in reading when many of us are failing to? So his response was that sometimes it's difficult to make them interested in reading a novel which is probably about 18th century Victorian England, and they are not finding relevant content or content that is relevant for them. Having said that, this is still true that popular text can still be used to teach contemporary literature. Sometimes finding content relevant literature is also important, where the learners can identify with characters in the book. Maybe we are using Indian authors as well, where they identify with the climate, with the food that is mentioned in the books as well. So teach the language, do not deny culture. Making it culturally relevant and the content culturally relevant can also help. Another key thing is it is imperative that teachers model the behaviors they want to encourage. Teachers need to model reading in order to create reciprocal reading relationships and to help children develop their own preferences. This is one thing that is suggested a lot in many of the discussions that we have around reading. Do not tell the children you have to read. That just takes away a lot from the process of reading. The part that they are talking about, that if you want to inculcate reading, you yourself have to read a lot. So I employ a very simple tactic sometimes. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. I always walk into a classroom with a book in hand. I do not make any gesture of introducing the book. I just place the book on my desk. Now, invariably, maybe one person can take the book and have a look and pass it on to the other person. Maybe someone will just say. So maybe three students had a look at the book and they just asked me a little bit about, like, what's it about, and then they lost interest. But just seeing someone carrying a book in classroom, and that can also trigger or activate their interest, like we are saying. So modeling yourself and the behavior around reading is very important. So that's also a suggestion that is given. If you have any reflection questions, please feel free to post it. We'll we'll come to active learning, which we have covered, but I want to start with this very interesting quote, and this was given in 1964 by John Holt. The biggest enemy to learning is the talking teacher. And that's why I do not want to use this time to talk a lot. It has to be activity based. Learning is not the product of teaching, learning is the product of activity of learners. We learn to do something by doing it. There is no other way. That is why we are using a lot of activities to situate ourselves within this. So most of the activities that we are doing can be done in a classroom space as well. group activities, the parking lot, the ABC model that we did today. So this is, and you can look up his book as well. It's very interesting. There are some YouTube videos as well where they talk about how he had a very different view on education and the classroom practices. So this was one of his earlier books, 1964. He had written some other books in 1974, 75 as well. So he has been a very significant and prominent figure in the education sphere. But I do hold this very clearly, that the talking teacher sometimes can be the biggest enemy, which brings us back to active learning. It does not mean a passive teacher. Make no mistake that if the teacher is not talking, that means that teacher is passive. A lot of planning must have gone behind the activities planned for the session. Again, another misconception about active learning is it is activity based. Active learning, if it's not meeting activity, if it's not meeting a learning outcome, is not active learning. Activity for the sake of doing activity does not serve a purpose. If it's not meeting a learning outcome, it is not active learning. This brings us back to a very important concept as well when we are doing language: dialogical learning. Anyone knows the concept of dialogical learning or any idea of what dialogical learning can be? Dialogical learning? Yes, please feel free to. Two-way, absolutely. Any elaboration of that? Interactions, absolutely. Conversations, yes. Listening, absolutely. Active listening is an important part of the. Yes. Questioning, discussions, yes. Any other responses? Absolutely, we have got some very good response about dialogical learning. Dialogical learning is learning that is happening, and it's a two-way process. It's a communication that is happening. Share as many anecdotes as you can that initiates the conversation. Sometimes we feel that no learning is happening if we are sharing anecdotes. No learning is happening if we are telling stories. Also a very good way of getting to know your learners, where you can introduce differentiation and the learning process can be interesting as well. So as we see that the teacher introduces new concepts and knowledge, teacher input, scaffolding, textbook, activities. Learner thinking involvement is happening, learner confidence in applying new knowledge, and this confidence is directed back to the teacher. So this conversation and the two-way process communication that we talked about, this is a very important part of the dialogical teaching process that we have been discussing. Now, this is an interesting way. We did the ABC classroom model to activate. Yes, this is an important way to activate students' thought process in general. If we look at the picture, and we will take up the importance of coding. Puzzles and codes can be an excellent way for developing critical thinking and using language in very creative way. It is also fun. Now, the activity that we are doing is taken from Stage 3 Global English book. However, it can be used for the higher grades as well. This is just an example of the learner book, like we were talking about, how pictorial the learner book is, especially at the primary level. They keep it simple for the learner book. The teacher resource is the one which has all the explanation and the notes given. In your handout, you have two kinds of codes. One is the number grid code, and the other is called the Caesar code. Now, I would ask each of the groups to choose a code, either a number grid code or the Caesar code, to write a secret message and pass on the message to the other team to decode the message. So first you have to select which code you will be using, the number grid code or the Caesar code. It's there in the handout. The number grid code or the Caesar code. And you have to write a secret message in the code and you have to pass it on to the other group for decoding. So you can either choose the Caesar code or the number grid code. You can write the code and yes, message anything you can choose. First decide the code and then you can write the secret code and you can share it. Messages anything you can choose. So first you can decide the code. Yeah, or sentence. Sentence will be better because that will be like yes, and then you can pass it on. Yeah. So first you can decide which code you can choose. The number grid code is user code, and then you can write a sentence and you can send it validly. Send. You can write a sentence instead of a word. You can write a sentence, so that will make the decoding more interesting. Yeah, that's fine. Any other group who is finished? Who's finished? Okay, you can. You're done. Okay. Okay. Oh, for me to decode. Okay. That's
Ma G V Z R V F தானே
TBYQ.
VBYQ. Yes, ma'am.
you can give it to that group for decoding. I've been, I have been given a code to decode as well.
What is this? Y என்னது? Y என்னது சொல்லுங்க. L. B na O. O. X na K. O na
B.
B.
R na E.
E.
S na F.
B
B
na
na
O.
O. E na R. R na E. R na E. L na
Y ah.
Y.
O.
U na
Ma'am, leave down, ma'am.
Ma'am, we got the answer.
Thank you so much.
இந்த sentence வச்சு. Ma'am, completed, ma'am. Time is good.
Thank you.
ஐயா அது அவங்கள தான் யோசிச்சாங்க. மேம் this is for you. என்ன? விளையாடலாம்.
என் பேர் எழுதி பார்ப்போமா? என் பேர் எழுதி பார்ப்போமா? என் பேர் எழுதி பார்ப்போமா? KANPAN. கேக்கு எக்ஸ். ஏனா எல்லுக்கு ஒய். டீக்கு சி. எண்ணுக்கு எண்ணுக்கு ஏ. இங்க பாரு, XNYCNAN. எனக்கு ஒரு நல்லா இருக்கு. ஒன் டு 26. ஸோ இப்போ 13 நம்ம போட்டோம்னா அது வந்து 20 அந்த மாதிரி அது மாதிரி கொஞ்சம் என் பேர் ஐரன். என் பேர் 5 அதான் வரும். சாரியா, நம்ம ப்ரொனவுன்ஸ் பண்றது தான் வேற மாதிரி இருக்கு. இன்னொரு சாட் உன் பேர் என்னம்மா? வாயிலே நுழையில. சைனீஸ் என்னதான்
உங்களுக்கு தான் ரெடி பண்றேன்.
நான் எழுதுறேன். நீங்க ரெடி, நான் ரெடி.
மேம் கண்டுபிடிச்சிருக்கீங்க மேம் நீங்க.
பியூட்டிஃபுல்லா. ஓகேவா?
பொறுமையா பண்ணுங்க சொன்னேன்.
Number. Okay, it's okay. You have already decoded, right? Yes. நம்ம பண்ணிட்டோம், நாம இன்னும் பண்ணல.
ஆறு வந்து இ ஒய் எல் பிசி ஜிடி விஐ விஓ என்
எலெக்ஷன்
ஆர் எஸ்
எஸ்
யூ
எல்டி ஐ எஸ் ஓ என் மிஸ் பண்ணிட்டேன்.
E.
தனி தனி எண்ணெய் எண்ணெய் ஈ கட்டி எண்ணெய்
Election
எண்ணெய்
day is
கண்டுபிடி
on Tuesday.
So I think most of the codes are decoded. Any group's code that is not decoded. We had some really interesting codes. Oh, thank you so much. Can oh, oh, okay. I'm sorry, I've burdened this group with two codes. They had already decoded once. Whose code is this? Have a nice day. Anyone interested with a number grid code? It has come from that group as well. They didn't decode. Okay, you can take it up with them. Whose code is this? Whose code is this? Anyone's code is this? I'm keeping this here and then you just take this out. So once we are done with the coding and decoding, we can just have a look at this is one thing that when we talk about good questioning, supposedly the worst question in teaching ever is do you or does everybody understand? What is the response we usually get is a resounding yes, mostly, because we feel that most learners don't want to look stupid in front of the class, so will answer yes even if they do not. So a better question can be how we are framing it. So this is just a feedback with the mini whiteboard. Can the groups write how do you understand that their learners are learning? Can you just choose the alphabet that you think? It can be more than one alphabet. If you think it's B, can you just write as a group on the mini whiteboard that B is the most important criteria for you to understand that their learners are learning? If it's C and D, it can be more than one option. Can we just take a minute to use the mini whiteboard to just write the option? You can write with a sketch pen. Yes. I'm keeping the ones who are, we don't know here so that we can just take it up later. Can we just have quickly the option? You can just write a mini whiteboard like the A4 sheet paper. If you just put. Yeah, you can use this paper. Like you can just fold it and can use, yes. So you can just write the option. Which option you think will help you to understand the task as a group. Okay. Yeah. I will follow. Yeah. B, C, and D. Okay. So till now we had two options. We have one B and C, and then we had B, C, and D. B and D. Sorry, D, C, B, B and C. Yes. Yes. So for you, for the yes, you just have to choose the B and C. Any other group ready with the options? C and D. So we have C and D, we have B, C, D, we have B, C, B, C. Okay. C and D. Okay. So I think that the common factor was that nobody chose A. I just know. So that's just suggesting that the teachers are extra careful when they are checking comprehension skills and the learner's ability to deal with the problem. So this is one of the things that we are coming to when we are looking at language awareness. Now, one of the suggestion when we know, and this is why we can check learning is happening, when language interactions are happening, you can see that there are different levels of language interactions that should be taken into account. One is teacher to whole class, teacher to student, student to teacher, student to student, students in a group, and student presentations. This is very important as we looked at the reading activity. This is extremely important when we look at language interactions and what kind of language interactions are happening. Which brings us to a very key skill in Cambridge teacher resource book that you will find is the concept of metacognition. And language awareness and checking the language awareness, how that is happening, is metacognition means becoming self-aware. It's knowing how you learn best, understanding how you respond to tasks, and most important, metacognitive and mindset strategies that can help the learners. This is one thing that we are talking about, that not everything should come from the teachers. The students should be aware of which stage of learning they are in. They would be planning and strategizing a lot of these activities themselves as well. So this is the metacognitive cycle that we hold true: the planning, monitoring, and the evaluation as the language learning is happening. This is a key skill. This is what comes in, what we say before, during, and after. Before the task, which brings us back to the ABC routine: activate, build, consolidate. In the learner activity book, the activities are structured around this. Before, your getting started activity. During, let's talk, discuss, describe. After, then the challenge questions are coming. That is why we did the practice question, we did the challenge questions. If you want the metacognitive part to come in one unit, if you want the metacognition to be addressed in one unit, you can choose specific units where you are doing all the activities: the before, during, after activities. Having said that, you can always choose which you can take the before activity in one unit, you can take the during activity in another unit, you can take the after activity in another unit. Based on the time and the ability of your learners, you can discuss what activities will be happening. But this is a key metacognitive cycle. Now, can someone use the teacher resource book and find out where metacognition skills are mentioned? If we can just take a minute, 2 to 3 minutes, using the teacher resource book to find out where it's very clearly mentioned in the Cambridge resource itself, where the metacognition skill is mentioned. Any group has extra teacher resource book? Can I have one teacher resource book? Thank you. Any group does not have a teacher resource book? Yes, yes. So you can just use this. Excuse me. Yes. No. Metacognition skills according to you that you can spot in the teacher resource. You can also use the handout and the extracts to find it as well. You can also use the handout and the extracts to find it. There will be a specific section for it. Particularly. No, there will be a particular. You found it? Yes. Some. Yes. Yeah, sure. One is here, like community, and here the language kit. Yes, yes. You can also use the extracts for it as well. I'll give you one thing. Teaching skill focus. You can concentrate on the teaching skill focus in the extracts. Yes, 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 yes. Absolutely. That is also responses, we can have the groups bouncing the ideas to the other group. So we can start from the back. We can start, ma'am? Yeah, ma'am. Yes.
Yes. So here the language detector. Before focusing on activity 5, Read the sentences in the language detective. Then your learners may know some comparative adjectives already. A good way to elect forms that already known is to ask them if they can remember the forms that have just here after the listening of activities 3 and 4. So here before, during and after is mentioned. Thank you.
This group, we have sir. You're ready? No? This group is ready? Any other group ready? Any group ready? This group ready? 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 Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Critical thinking opportunity. Divide the classes into small two groups. Give the groups a plastic sandwich box or plates. Ask them to mix yellow and blue paint. Here, we are planned to evaluate the activity and monitor now. Encourage them to observe what happens before, during, after, or take places here. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other group who is ready?
Match the illustrations with the lines from the poem. First, we are going to demonstrate. We are going to give this activity so the children would focus on what is that they are going to do, and then they are going to match the illustrations with the poem, and then we are going to evaluate it. This is how it is planned, before, during, and after.
We can implement this during the play say Simon says. We'll be telling them Simon says, and we'll ask them to do a small activity. If I say stop, they'll be listening, and after that, we'll be implementing by saying Simon says.
Any other group ready?
Your metacognition activity is as a learner, what were you like when you were a baby? Like the ideas and anecdotes, and as a class, how people celebrate the birth of baby where they live. Is there any special ceremony? And do people prepare a special food? And what clothes do they wear? And as a learner, what names are popular? Is it popular to give children names of TV stars?
Ma'am, this is based on act it out. So before, after, and evaluation. So during the storytelling, this is a type of storytelling. Divide the classroom into groups and assign a character to each group member. After, hand out the characters puppets to them, to the students. They cut out the story characters, color them, and mount them on cards. Then they mount the pictures on craft sticks. And evaluation, then they act out the story with their puppets. This is the mode. Thank you.
Any other group? Ready? This group. It finds the metacognitive element in the work.
Planning. First, I ask the student to listen the audio. Second, I will play the audio. I just listen. I just monitor the student whether they are listening. After that, I evaluate the student through asking the question from that audio that he has listened.
In this lesson, before listen and read is given, and then during lesson, during we have to do it as act it out. At last, we can give find the solution.
Okay. For groups who are also, I just wanted to point out, anyone has spotted in the global English handout the metacognition part? Anyone has found the, in the teaching skill focus, as you can see, there is a clear mention of the metacognition skill. So if you come to page 4 of the handout, page 4 of the handout, so this is, it's embedded in the teacher resources. Page 4 of the primary extract handout, page 4 of the primary extract handout. Can you see the metacognition skill? Right? It's embedded in the resources itself. Page 4 of the primary handout, it's embedded in the skill. And if you just have a look at the lower secondary handout, teaching skill focus, then the focus shifts from unit to unit. In that particular unit, in the lower secondary one, in the teaching skill focus, it's formative assessment. In the teaching skill focus, it is formative assessment for lower secondary. So in the primary, for one unit, so this is exactly what we are talking about. In not all the units, the teaching skill focus will be metacognition. In one unit, it will be metacognition. In the other unit, it will be formative assessment. So this is how it is embedded in the curriculum itself. This is how it's embedded in the structure itself. And I would also like to take this opportunity to point out the cross-curricular link that many of you have pointed out. It's also there in the handout extracts. The cross-curricular link, it's also there in the handout extracts. So this is the way, and thank you all for planning out the activity as well. Before, during, after, we had some wonderful ideas of the activities planned out. So this is the way the scaffolding can happen. You have a guide and a framework, but then you can also plan out the activities as well. Right, so we had some very good ideas of the activities that can be planned around metacognition. Now, this is something important that we come to, and we were also having discussion with Sir, who pointed out that in Cambridge resources, there is a scheme of work that comes in. It's not related to the syllabus. There is a scheme of work that comes in. The first scheme of work is resource agnostic. Resource agnostic means that it does not follow any particular book. The teacher can source resources by themselves and make the classroom learning and teaching possible. But it is not suggested because it becomes a huge burden for the teachers. Imagine sourcing all the units and all the activities from it. So the second part comes in following the resource books that Cambridge has structured. And this is what we are doing. We are using the learner book. Having said that, this learner book is not specialized only to Cambridge curriculum. This, when we are doing global English curriculum, when we are doing global English, it's not just Cambridge, it's international English standard. International English standard for students who are non-native speakers. Non-native speakers, they are using English in their everyday life. They are speaking in the language, but they are not necessarily speaking the language at home. This is a very important distinction that we can have. we'll come to this idea that the teacher sir was talking about, the debate and the round robin that is initiated, and it's an integral part. And as you can see that Cambridge has this parliamentary style group discussion that is embedded in the system as well. um, we are not initiating this activity, but this is the suggestion, this is the way that it can be structured. So if you can divide your learners into two teams, one team proposing the motion, the other team opposing the motion, and then you're choosing judges from the learners themselves. Metacognition is happening. You are not the judge. You're choosing the judges from the learners and the students themselves. And then you can ask them, team 1 proposing opens and may have up to 5 minutes to present their argument, and team 2 now has 5 minutes to present their counter argument, and allow now have 5 minutes to ask and answer questions, and the educator gives a verdict on which team had the better argument. So the students themselves, you don't decide who has the better argument. Let the students themselves decide. That in itself, the metacognition will be happening, because they will be reflecting, they will develop the critical thinking skills, and they will have the ability to give feedback. So one of the queries here, a lot of the queries here was around activities that can be designed around uh, not using digital resources as well. So group debate activities is a very integral part of the curriculum itself. This is a critical part. This helps in the consolidation. Please don't skip this part in the debate. Each group's judges must now summarize and present to the room the debate's main points from each side, plus their verdict on the winning team. So please don't skip this step, because this helps in the consolidation part a lot as well. This is the lesson planning stage and the sequence that we follow, especially for global English. First, we focus on the planning, the learning intentions, and the success criteria. Then we think about the language support that we can provide through this. Then we can plan the starter activities, which is the getting started activity. So there is clear link in the learner book with everything. Then we can plan the main activities, we can plan the assessment, we can plan reflection and the plenary, and also plan the homework. There were some questions about plenary. What is a plenary? I think the doubts have been cleared with the plenary part that's there in the teacher resource, very stark. And if you still have any questions, then I can come to that as well. This is the part that we come back to again. Ensure your topic is in the correct sequence. Use the unit plan and add learning intentions and success criteria from the learning plan itself. As you're planning your lesson plan for global English must start with the language awareness in the second part that we looked at. So this is a very important part, the language support that you would be having. I'll just come around and point out in the teacher resource how that's embedded as well. This is the lesson plan structure. I don't know if you're following the structure. So the learning objectives that comes in, then the learning intention, the success criteria, the resources, the language support, including any key vocabulary that needs to be addressed. That would come in very. And as we see introducing the lesson, the lesson activities, and you are constantly mentioning the time. So many times we have seen that in the lesson plan, the time is mentioned as a block. Don't make the mistake of mentioning the time as a block, because then you're not having a clear idea of how the activities can be uh, used and scaffolded as well. And this is the last part when we are coming assessment opportunities. So use as many formative assessment opportunities that's there. Differentiation opportunities, it's there in the teacher resource as well. Plenary and reflection, homework if any, and then notes. Which brings us back to reflection. Now we'll have a very short activity before we before we take a break. We just have some few minutes left. We'll just have a quick activity of, we have discussed a lot of strategies that can be used in classroom to help the learners either become more confident in communication or listening. So can we have, as a group, you deciding on some strategies using the teacher resource, metacognition, formative assessment in mind, some activities that can be designed around, any 2 or 3 activities that can be designed to make reading and writing skills the focus, reading, writing, and speaking skills the focus. I'm leaving out listening because I'll take it up separately. Designing activities around that, and we can have 2 people in the group staying back. You will sell your strategies to the others who will come to buy, so the others from the group will go around to buy some of the strategies that they have planned. So we can have each group planning out the strategies that you can suggest that would make the classroom space better, activities around reading, writing, and speaking. And just chalk out the activities what you plan to do, and 2 people will stay back, explain the strategies, and the others will go around collecting the strategy. If they like something, they'll buy it, and then you have to come back and say which strategies you bought. What are the strategies that you have? If you really like one strategy to make a note, you can buy it, and then at the end you can come and suggest which activities you are planning. If the team is suggest, then 2 people speak up. Sell their strategies. Yes. So as a group, you need to come up with different strategies that can help. Some of the strategies that we have discussed as well. 2 or 3 strategies you can harp on, based around reading, writing, and speaking. It can be any strategy, right? So speaking, reading, writing, speaking. So if you want to develop speaking skills, a parliamentary style debate, right? If you, yes. Yes, absolutely. As a group, then 2 people stay back. You have your strategy, and when others will come, you will try to sell your strategy. Why this is really, really good to employ in the classroom, in the group itself, and the others as buyers, you will go to the other group and you will try to buy strategies that you like. So you can go around with a notebook, find other strategies, other team strategies, and then you can come back and then you can suggest some strategies that you really like from the other group that you have actually bought. So any feedback, suggestions, any friends? So 2 people from the group will stay back. You will try to set the strategy, and the others will go around and try to collect as many strategies that you like, yeah, from other team, and you write it down, and then you tell which strategies you really like and you would like to. Is the activity clear?
like what were activities?
Yes, you can base your activities around reading, writing, and swimming. Any activity that you can reach them very well. So, say for example, you can have fun with this kind of game as an activity, right?
We wrote what activity, vocabulary gallery.
Yes, yes, vocabulary gallery is very good, right? Then three people from your group will stay back. When others come to your group, try to sell hard your strategy, right? Like this strategy is really good because it will help them and all. If they really like it, they will buy your strategy and we will go. And we will also buy other people's strategies when we like. Free of cost, right? Free of cost, absolutely no pricing. And then we will come back and say what strategies we liked and why for. So basically, you have to find three activities in the classroom that can be like these speaking, like that. Like these two, three activities that we can have in the classroom. Parking lot, anything. Like two people from your local state, they will try to sell the strategy that you have tried, then other people will buy, and others will go around and try to buy as many strategies as possible and come back and see what's okay. Is it clear?
About today's session, what happened in the morning.
No, no. So what you have to do is you have to pick out two activities that are structured. So or they will try to sell these strategies. Other people go and buy and come back and buy yes. So basically what you have to do is that with the reading writing stating, you can instruct they're mentioning activity or strategy. To get one. To get one. Ma'am, if we are going with continuous stress activity, which develops their speaking. Yes, yes. Can I write that?
Then is it open? Like we used to play
Name, please. So this is one activity that we can do, right? As a fun and the learning outcome can be. You can mention that the learning outcome is they know the activity they've got. Or writing, you can say that reading and build up something like that. They can know the city's name, different cities name, different cities. And we try to sell the strategy to the student, try to sell the strategy part. And the others go on collecting as many good activities that we did. Okay. So role play is a very good strategy. Perfect. Story building, very good strategy.
Writing skill, frame the sentence using the picture clues.
Yes, yes.
Read silent, loud, loud with action.
Yes, yes, yes. The crazy. You can give it that name. You can give some interesting name as well. The crazy professor method. You can give that name as well, and then two people can stay back, and the others just try to collect as many good strategies as you can. So you carry a notebook and a pen with you, so you can like collect as many good strategies as you can.
from other teams. Yes.
See, you have dialogical learning,
Yes.
dialogue with others.
Yes.
It is for focusing and for sensing.
Yes.
I can have dialogue with self. That
Yes.
is for discovery,
Yes.
entertainment, and also for
Yes.
reflection.
Yes.
Now there is a third dialogical learning. That is, you said the referee or the leader of the dialogue group also is learning to come back with the report. Now, which one does get related to metacognition?
So basically, when we are having dialogue internally as well, right? And also, even say for example, they are choosing strategies, which strategy works for them. When they are so, because not every one strategy can be extremely good, but it might not work for them. So maybe someone is not that comfortable with the strategy, but the story building will work for them. So I generally find that this strategy might not work for my language, but the other strategy can work for them. That can be a very powerful self-awareness.
End of every lesson, we have something called reflection, self-reflection.
Yes, yes,
How integrate make advantage.
yes, 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 yes. We can't like the methodology that we try to understand, you know, the function is why we give the remarks and what are the vigilance, how can I so how can I get a
But most of the discussions,
yes, no, no, you don't have to write it. You just have to stay back and sell it as much as possible. Have the other group members who would be scouting for good activities, you can start moving, and the ones who would be staying back, they can just stay back to explain the activities to the other group members when they'll come. Right? I think most of the groups are ready with their activities, so we can have that. I will definitely like to buy some fair share. Okay, let me get my notebook, right? And your buyers can start moving around. Okay, right? Sorry? Oh, okay. To add, yes, yes. That also. Okay, okay. That's great. I'm having my notebook as well to get the strategy. Then can I borrow one pen and paper? So I'm buying strategies as well, so you can.
Drawing words means you have to say a word to your student. Okay, suppose gracious. What thing comes to mind, the student has to draw it. That's the right. Silent reading, loud reading, loud reading with expression, loud reading with expression and the action. That is the basic. Activities, 500 more, 500. Check it with us. Take it from us. அவங்க ஏதாவது gracious அப்படின்னா எது gracious? Name of the name place animal speaks. You like it when you want to play a sport. Story building main, ma'am. Suppose once upon a time there was
So if we can all settle down, we would be going for break soon. We were supposed to go at 3:15, so thank you, ma'am. So if we can all settle down. Oh, they left for break. It's okay. We can take a break and we can come back and discuss our strategies, if that's okay. Yes? Okay.
People want to get into either MBBS or engineering, but they are not very student. They were looking up to the marks, so they can get into the best colleges. But we don't want to leave it. So just we are already started. Started this. Okay, fine. Thank you. Hello.
We are just planning to close by 4, so we have some time. Like some teachers were asking some grade related questions, like 6, 7, 8. So we can address these questions and then we wrap it up. Maximum.
No, what we are intending to have is after the session we can spend 5-10 minutes of time because the segments are we are looking at all possible. One session. Whenever she comes, we'll have it. It's already you have to be there. No? See, you are taking the flight today, sir?
Yes, yes.
10 o'clock.
Yes.
To which place?
Bangalore. Then,
Bangalore.
yeah. Then again.
Domestic flight, you have to be there 1 hour in advance. So traveling time, they have to be Sunday, you know, a lot of problems. So it takes time. In fact, in what they have, you know, such sessions, you know, maybe whenever you are coming to India, let's do the 20th.
So, sir, I'm here till end last week of July or first week of August and
Afterwards, whenever you coming back.
I'll be away for 2 months, 1.5 months, 2 months. So by September, October, I'll be back.
By that time, whenever you are coming, we have a almost session. Let us have the country fee. Otherwise, you know,
Yes.
there will be
Yes, yes. I mean, sir just says that he's always, organizing, and he's the one thing that he says, all give us support.
because our first time is the month. Yes. September is okay. September, October is okay. Next week also we have science. Saturday science. Science. Because science is an English and is the introduction. This year. Science we have for the
So actually, we all have this cohort, and every 2-3 months we meet. Like either it happens in Delhi or not, just for us to catch up with each other, share the experience. Yes, yes. Oh, yes, yes. I will send the link because we usually have now people which is definitely not great. Right. So for the past 2 years, they have been having this training. It's usually given on the Cambridge website, but as soon as it's given, certain schools get because now the number of schools expanding, they have a very small group of trainers. Now they need way more trainers, also subject trainers. So every year now there is recommended. Yes.
I mean also CIT.
Yeah, yeah, CIT. Yes.
CITDL also if you want someone.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Hello. Uh, I think we can just have a quick go around with some of the strategies that we have collected. Uh, we can settle down. So I can start with mine, and then we can have a brainstorming part where about the strategies collected. So some of the strategies I collected, one was think, pair, share. The other one was a reading circle. Uh, I'm reading some the ones that's coming. One was the class MUN, which is like each student is representing another country and they can speak on that. Design a brochure for students coming to visit Pondicherry, updating on the blog school magazine. So that is also an interesting part we came in. Monologue, word wall, reading comprehension, vocabulary building, sentence starters, sentence building, jam sessions, entry and exit tickets as well. So can we have this group talk about some of the strategies?
Good evening, everybody. The following strategies were collected from other teams. Tongue twister for developing speaking skill, solving word puzzle for developing writing skill, constructing story and sentence for developing writing skill, find the way treasure hunt for developing reading skill, event writing, describing an event, that is describing an event. This is also for developing writing skill. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Collected. Oh, okay. So you can. Right, you can say that.
So for whatever we have all collected, right? She has told everything. So yes, she has covered.
Any new strategies? Any new strategies? If there is any new strategy, if we can just quickly brainstorm, and then any new strategy collected? Everything has been said, most of the strategies that's collected. Okay, so that brings us back to the last segment. The last segment is we just want to point out that when we were talking about metacognition, if you just quickly open the learner book, the plenary and the reflection tasks are really important. Can someone tell me what is the color used for reflection task in the learner book? What is the color code used for the reflection task in the learner book? If you can spot any reflection task, and if you can give me the color code used for the reflection task in the learner book. Ma'am, do you have a learner book, extra learner book? You have a learner book? Yes. If you can look through and find out the color used for the reflection task. Yes, green is the color used for the reflection task. It's very important because the reflection task is the part which is really consolidating the learning that is happening and how that learning can be utilized for the other units as well. Again, I stress on this more importantly because we tend to sometimes skip the reflection task and the project challenge. What we fail to understand is even with the project challenge activity that's given, the project challenge can be a very good reflection task itself because it's consolidating all the knowledge that is happening. So the project challenge can be quite interesting and it's consolidating the knowledge. So the plenary, the critical thinking skills, the metacognition that we have talked about, the learners being self-aware. Before we close, I'll just add one final thought. How do we know that metacognition is happening in the classroom? How do we know that the learners are becoming self-aware? There is a very simple method to find this out. One method is if you give a task to a learner, and if the learner says, I'm done, it's finished, as opposed to the learner says, let me go through this once again. Let me see if I've completed everything or not. Metacognition is happening. Let me go through this once again. They are checking themselves, they are looking. Another way to find out is we have many students, especially in lower secondary level, in IGCSE level, AS and A levels, coming up to us and saying, why have you given us this marks? As opposed to someone who can say, how can we get a better grade? What can we do to make it better? What can we do to make it better? How can we get a better grade? Is metacognition happening? Why have you given us this marks is not being very self-aware of their work. Because someone who's coming up to you and asking you, how can I get a better grade, is aware that something went wrong with what they have done, and they are asking for support and help to improve that. So these are simple strategies. That is why reflection, the plenary mentioned in the resource book, is really, really important. And the project challenge. Again, I insist that the project challenge does not need to be completed for each and every unit. But you can pick and choose. I'll give you a very small example of what happened. I take AS and A level whenever I get time. I love teaching. So I take AS and A level 9093 English. In that, the students have to do a lot of critical thinking and writing. Now, I had given a presentation task to the class. I had not specified what kind of presentation they would need to make. Now, out of a class of 21, 3 of them gave me a PowerPoint presentation with ChatGPT AI integrated with a lot of presentation. And the rest of them did, I wouldn't say a sloppy job, but they were very relaxed about it. They came with a piece of uh, so that is differentiation happening. I gave an activity. It worked well for 3 students who put in that effort. However, they learned from their peers. So after 1.5 months, when another project was given to them, this time around 12 students did a PowerPoint presentation. So they put in that effort. So this is reflection task, project challenge, metacognition, the plenary are very, very important, and it also helps to initiate differentiation. For lack of time, we didn't have time to do the differentiation. We follow the Tomlinson's model of differentiation, and that's a whole new area how we can introduce differentiation through content. But today, with closing, we are trying to showcase your learning just with a 5-minute exercise as to on the piece of chart paper as a group, if you can make a group presentation quickly on the new learning that has happened and what have you taken from it. So if you can just have a quick 5-minute reflection and a group presentation on this, that would be great. Thank you.
Gradually, when British invasion comes, after that our Hindu culture is demolished completely. From there only, I think the recon statement has come. He was the person who actually started this Indian Institute to be the mechanism for developing uh, bureaucracy. They want to have people. Yes. Then the politics and they have seen our designing. Mindset. Very few have people do murder. They are victims of it. Mahatma was attacked by money. No, with the help of all the strong. And also they could not stop the celebration of honoring Mahatma. Pandit was a great because the king himself was a poet. He himself Hindu Raj was he was an adopted son. He only I was telling this to Rajamani sir that we should also have theatre culture. We had a theatre person. It's a big part of we have to stop it. You can bring somebody inside. We had a teacher, excuse me for that. The police used to make us cry in the stage. Very talented, but I don't know. Otherwise, this for a long time. Well, dialogue is very plus more than 10 years or somehow. I think I think we can talk. We can record one more person. You have better people. Suppose you show him only this year. Without getting video. The main focus should not be grammar. See, the chorus song. Last time, what was the leading chorus? The left side of the brain is always for logic, left side. The right side of the brain is something which is for design, creative. Now, our right side of the brain is not. You will see the challenge is I mean, the people who are more for science and commerce, they don't read books. Reading is a habit. Even the students among the teachers, at least 3 books in a year, they should read. Those days you used to get a series of books, small books, but for kids, the course here, right now that is not very promoted. Library period is not it's not happening. Library has shifted. Well, if you look at our present big companies, CEOs, I mean, they are also basically saying the same thing. Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Jack Ma, they are all saying that art and design is something which is required because in the age of artificial intelligence, I think that will be more streams for design. Yes, there is a paper of art and design in IT board.
Somebody love getting somebody. GDP protest GDP, they are not very effective. Much higher than what it is. So when you have money now, you will definitely go for research itself, we are not giving because you are the same amount of money. That's the problem. It is infra is getting developed very fast. Within another 5 years, they are good to us. There it is. It will become like this. Everybody is developing. That will make up. What they will do, what they will do. You say control. Change the interactive with always tell them what is the next period, what is the before after the next. Answer the tougher part. It's not the I used to tell for the first 7, 8 years, they have been telling people are following, but not understanding. The culture of the is really trustful. You come to the
So we are ready for showcasing? Yes. So as a group, everyone can come in slowly after.
Everybody group. They are calling the group. All the members come here. Team K, come forward. Team K, come forward. Everyone, she asked to everyone. We have to hold and present the chart towards the just right. Happy evening to everyone. Our presentation about this session, Cambridge Global English Orientation Learning Program objectives. From the morning till the end, right now we have seen learner-centered integrated approach, first one. Second, metacognitive, innovative, engaged, reflective. Third one, RAG assessment, red, amber, green. Fourth one, ABC, classroom routine, activate, build, consolidate. And fifth one, FA and SA, formative assessment and summative assessment. Then sixth one, learning strategies. That's beyond. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening to one and all gathered here. So, on the name of Cambridge Global English, today we have learned many things. So, in that, we have highlighted some point. The first one is active learning for effective language teaching. First point. And then, second one, John Hole's opinion on teachers. So, it was very new for everybody, I think so. And this third one, usage of teacher's manual and learner's book. And the next is various interesting teaching strategies. And the next, use of RAG in the classroom. And the next, active questioning techniques. So we have learned many uh, techniques on questions. And then last one is designing focus, practice, and challenge questions. And Cambridge learner profile, that is confident, responsible, reflective, innovative, and engaged. Thank you, ma'am.
Wonderful afternoon to all. So, adding to the previous group, and we are from Group H, and we 7 teachers are there in the group. So, we have learned about RAG assessment and ABC classroom routine and 4 key skills. Along with that, we learned about receptive and productive skills. Then, group debate we have done, and we learned about, we recalled about Bloom's taxonomy. Then we map the content which is there in the learner's book and the teacher's resource. Then, adding to that, we learned about active questioning. Okay, we learned about pose, pass, bounce, bounce. And next one, activities that we have done so far is secret code, scavenger hunt, silent debate, which may attract us more. Then As we learned about the scheme of work and how to map with our lesson plan. Then the strategies that you have followed is fishbowl strategy. This I want to highlight here because this we are learning today. But I'm really very happy and privileged to say that this we are following for past 10 years in Aditya, which is we used to call that as AMP box, which is active mental participation box. We all of us have that in our classroom still now. The next one, hands up, no hands up activity. Only you need to use AMP box. And the innovative practices that you have done in this session, which is parking lot. So I'm sure we will follow that in our teaching also. And next one is mini whiteboard activity. So as a primary teachers, we used to get students' name in our memory. It will take nearly 4 to 5 days, right? We can use this whiteboard activity. We can recognize the name of a student. And the vocabulary which I have learned from you today is scaffolding. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you for this nice opportunity. Let me explain. We are the team of this is known as like this Cambridge training is we are getted knowledge lot of things while lesson plan sequence making, and second thing is ABC classroom is very interesting for us, and next is for active questioning. So while teaching our students how they are engaged in classrooms, that very interestingly that active making question is based on like critical thinking and all helpful. And next towards codes based activity, that is very interesting for us, and we can use it in our classroom for to the students also. And next is critical questioning, that is also very helpful. So critically how they are solving the questions very easily and how they are observing the classroom teachings. And third is like scavenger hunt, that is also very interesting, ma'am. And use of rag, that is very very interesting, that red and amber and green. So green is for those who are making very intelligence, that is very useful. And metacognition is also very interesting, like comparatively these are that and that. So the last is Bloom's taxonomy, that is a very interesting, ma'am. In this session we are understands about the activity based fun based learning is very important for the students. And for so curriculum framework, so last is for curriculum framework is very nice to us. So thank you for this, ma'am. Thank you.
Blitsum evening, everyone. So, first and foremost, I thank you, ma'am, for giving us the golden opportunity to explore more knowledge about the curriculum and transaction process. So, here we go with the learning objectives. So, let me explain. So, first, we discussed about the REG as assessment for learning, that red, amber, and green, which is the transaction process and the level of the students' learning. And then ABC, which is a classroom routine, like activate and then build and then consolidate the learning process of the children. And this is active questioning and as well as the active learning process, where teacher will be a facilitator, and where under the zone of proximal development, teacher will be a facilitator who understands the nature of the student and help the student to learn the process. So here it goes under the 3 P's and B. We made it as a formula to understand the structure, and this is a learning skills, which is the motto of the English subject as LSRW, and this is receptive and productive skills. And at last we learned about formative assessment and summative assessment, its classification, and then about the quote of John Holt. And here we go with the learning planning sequences and teaching learning strategies. I will share my experience through my internship, where we used to implement the constructivist approach of 5E. like engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate under the stages of introduction, development, and application, and then evaluation. So it's very easy for me to consequence and the coherent of content. And this is metacognition, being self-aware of the children and thinking about thinking. That's the motto of the metacognition. So here the activities goes on the two section. One is plan, monitor, and evaluate, and then the process of before, during, and after. And then last, Bloom's taxonomy, where we used to create a lesson plan and weekly plan with the help of the Bloom's taxonomy under the stages of remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. And then last, classifications of traditional and the contemporary, like constructivist modern learning strategies, with who is active learner and who is passive learner. So those structure is being learned today in the class. And thank you for giving me this golden opportunity, as well as to the every staff members. Thank you so much.
Happy evening to one and all gathered here. First, I like to thank our founder, sir, for giving this wonderful opportunity. Today, we have enjoyed a session with the Cambridge, which is very new to us, and it will help us in our future for our children, and which we can learn more. So, we have noticed only few points, not the more. So, active learning, what we have learned from the morning, as well as the students we have learned today in the active learning, we are also enjoying like school kids, right? Hope yes or no? Yes, we all enjoy. Next, metacognition, which we are always using in the syllabus, curriculum, and our portion, so which will be more useful in our future. And strategies, what we all enjoyed and what all the strategies we bought and sold today. How many of you have bought many strategies? Can you raise your hands? Only few have bought. So in next we can buy more strategies and make our children to enjoy like this, so that they will enjoy the class, I think. Next, a silent debate. Always we used to make our children to talk and discuss and do whatever debate, but we have learned today about the silent debate, which would be useful for our children to do more. Next is resource book utilization, which will make our children to do still better and make our teachers also do best. And we have learned in previous, we have know about many skills we have learned, but now which is like AI and Cambridge has come this year, so we'll still learn. And active questioning, how we have to be in the question, how actually the teachers we used to ask what we have understood, are you ready with our class, can you understand my class, always will be taking like this, but this time we have learned something different by asking active learning questions. I think this has made us very useful and we all enjoyed as English teachers. Hope we will shine this year, making this Cambridge do best, and let the Aditya shine still. Thank you.
Good evening, one and all. I'm Sangavi on behalf of our team B. Here we are presenting our learnings in the form of thought bubbles. We have learned challenge and practice questions, metacognition, Bloom's taxonomy, skill development, active questioning, Dylan William, approaches of teaching learning ABC, how children fail by John Holt, as the talking teacher is the biggest enemy, and assessment for learning approaches. Yeah, and the session was very interactive. We have learned many interesting skills and strategies as well as activities. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Here I am presenting the tree knowledge of gained knowledge from Cambridge Global English. We learned from this session, the formative assessment, summative assessment, they learn about effective methodologies and strategies to improve the learner centered approach, and learn about metacognition strategies and usage of teacher resources correlated with the learner resources and books, etc. Thank you.
Good evening to all. Today, our group name is D. Today, we are going to learn the Cambridge Global Primary English. Today is very interesting. To the first quotes, and the biggest enemy to learning is the talking teacher. This is in our mind. Remember always. And then we are learn the teacher resources in this global Cambridge Global Primary English book, and then Learner's book, Learner Center Integrated Approaches, and Metacognitions, and ABC Learning. It's very interesting to that. And Active Learning, Pause, and Bounce. It's very interesting. Bloom's and Taxonomy, Create, Evaluate, and Analyze, Applied, and Understand. That's we are very interesting to learn that today's session. Fishbowl and strategies activities is very interesting in that sessions. Thank you, Nandal.
Good evening, everyone here. First of all, we would like to thank our founder, sir, and also our ma'am. It was a great privilege for us, and also we have learned a lot of things. And here I would like to mention few of the things what we have learned in global English. Ma'am, especially we have learned how to use the resources in our classrooms very effectively, and also we have mainly in our how to write the lesson plan. In that we have learned how to make the students to reflect, and also how to use Bloom's taxonomy in our teaching style. And we have learned a lot of activities in our through our group activities. We have learned how to utilize it in our classrooms. And also here we have learned teaching learning activities and also learner centered approach, and in that we have learned a lot of steps. So thank you for all the effective session that you have made to us. Thank you.
In that I like only one thing. It's very special. I think you also enjoyed it. That what is mean by summative, and ma'am said no, it's easy method. Cooking is summative assessment and formative assessment. Formative assessment is cooking soup, like a cooking soup, and summative assessment is tasting the soup. It's I like very much, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening to one and all present here. Today we discuss the topic about assessment for learning. The usage of resource book is it's very useful for us to know about it. It's from level 1 to level 9. We get a clear picture what to do, and how to implement. Thank you, ma'am. And then the curriculum framework for communication and critical thinking. Then the Bloom's taxonomy, ABC classroom routine, the activities, different types of activities is really helpful to implement in the classroom. The one more thing I need to actually a suggestion or like approach. Ma'am, you said that no hands up approach. So for maintaining classroom discipline, usually we use in all periods that instead of opening their mouth and shouting, we'll use only no, I mean to raise your hand for answer. Why should not we use this? Only for fish pound is applicable here. Ma'am, I'm understand like you are speaking about the curriculum. I'm asking you about the discipline. How should we control that? Difficult to control. Give a name to someone and ask them to ask a question. And by chance, if they are a little reluctant to answer the question, you can bounce it on to the next person as well. That's what you introduced here, like a pause, bounce, and yes. Thank you, ma'am. It's an interesting session. Thank you to one and all present.
You have the freedom to look at the children who are weaker and encourage them to participate.
So usually we practice this everyday life. That's what. It's slight change, so we had it out here. Thank you. We are just wrapping things up. Thank you all for that wonderful showcase. And I thank everyone here for the wonderful opportunity. We just have one small part. Whenever you get time, if you share your feedback and please share your mail ID correctly, you will get a certificate from Cambridge for participating today. So the certificate will go directly to your mail. So don't forget to share the feedback because the certificate and just ensure that the mail ID is given correctly. It has also been shared.
Actually, given that some people they are saying they are not working that QR code, so we share the link, ma'am. So principal ma'am share the link to your all in that respective WhatsApp group, something like that. I request kindly submit the feedback, ma'am.
So if you can just have a group photo with everyone.
All of us?
Yes.
We work.